Hello everybody, how are we doing? So I have some good news and I have some bad news. I'll lead with the bad and then we'll head on into the good. So, bad news, there won't be any further Fireball videos. I know it's a bit of an auspicious beginning to the series, but, and I'll play it now. Extra proj. What's the green effect on the corpses? That's Cinder Swallow, yeah. The Fireball character did end up face planting into a pack of mobs while I didn't have buffs up, which is a good way to get myself killed in hardcore. It was very effective. The character's very dead. That said, good news is I have since leveled and begun the gearing process on a new build, and that build is one that, from the comments of the previous video, it seems a number of people were excited for, which is Assassin Viper Strike, or I guess Shadow Viper Strike, but Assassin is the ascendancy that I went with. So I'm going to give a brief overview of the gear as it stands so far, talk about the goals that I have for the build, the next things that I want to do, and normally what I would also do is talk about which bosses I have in mind for this character to handle, but I don't know that just yet, so I'm going to kind of leave that to you in chat to help me figure out which bosses that I want. I said chat, I'm too used to streaming this YouTube thing. How do you do it? Leave that to you in the comments below. Is that down there? Yeah, let me know which bosses you think this build might be best suited to handle. I'm also going to throw up some mapping footage, potentially at the end of the video, potentially while I'm talking. It'll be in here somewhere. You can watch it with your eyeballs. So, Assassin Viper Strike. Obviously, Viper Strike was chosen because it is the skill that Twilight Strand grants to Shadow. I didn't have very high expectations for Viper Strike, but it's been performing better than I anticipated. It actually had a pretty smooth leveling process, handled bosses easily the whole way through. And the reason we've gone for Assassin over Trickster is because it just has better poison synergies. There is some within Trickster, but not nearly as much, while also allowing me to go faster and get tankier. Assassin, a while ago now, had a Ascendancy revamp that actually allowed for a lot more survivability on the Ascendancy, and has some of the most powerful individual Ascendancy nodes in the game, in my opinion. Mistwalker being the most potent one out of the Ascendancy defensively, giving generic 8% reduced damage taken, which is pretty much always up because we have very good crit chance, or good enough crit chance that this is 100%, and no extra damage taken from crits, which is a stat that I think a lot of people undervalue. It smooths out incoming damage quite a lot and makes it a lot easier to predict how much damage you're going to be taking, and also lets you just ignore crit chance maps, which is really nice, because that's a mod that's particularly dangerous in hardcore and that I get to just overlook if I want to. The rest of the Ascendancy is nothing too unusual. We've got the Poison nodes, because we're Poison, and Poison is good. And we've got Opportunistic, because it's further damage reduction and some speed. You could theoretically go for something like Ambush and Assassinate for a little bit extra more damage while they're on low life, or Culling Strike, or Unstable Infusion's not that good. We have Power Charge Gen through other means, so it's basically between Ambush or Opportunistic, and I prefer the damage reduction while clearing and the movement speed as well. As far as gear is concerned, there's nothing too crazy going on. I do have another powerful defensive tool that I think is highly underutilized in hardcore in the form of Mistwall. This shield is really, really potent. A lot of people overlook it because it doesn't have a life roll, but I think it more than makes up for that with the pseudo block that it gives you. Particularly if you have a lot of defensive layers. I'm eventually planning on going Aspect of the Crab as well, which my dodge and my block will protect, so I'll have that fizz mitigation against fizz dots up almost all of the time. Should be pretty darn tanky. Already is pretty darn tanky. We have a generic rare chest piece, life and res. It's a 6-link. This will be an explodey chest eventually. I don't have the money for that yet. Generic rare helmet, life, strength that I did need, some res, an enchant that isn't very good. The gear's in a pretty middling spot at the moment. The claw is actually rather nice. I managed to, through alt spam, luck into having the poison mod and crit chance together on a claw on like the alt spam, so while it was blue. A Regal hit crit multi, and from there it was just a matter of harvest crafting out, because the only chaos prefix is flat chaos damage. And then I craft some attack speed and fizz slam and fizz reroll until I get a decent fizz mod. This one can still be improved. We got a sub while I was recording. Thank you, Haffen, for the sub. I appreciate that. You're going to show up in the YouTube video, buddy. Embalmer, they're cheap. These will be replaced by Hunter Gloves with strike skills target an additional enemy eventually. but these are cheap and they're good. Belt is actually rather good. Lucked into this with an essence roll. I was rolling, I think, like a cold res essence or something, and it just happens to hit good life and other 2 res rolls. So good. I'm not going to turn that down. We got Tailwind Boots, which are the product of today's crafting endeavors. I spammed some Deafening Essences of Dread, which is why this has 32% movement speed, until I had mods that I could finagle around with Harvest to be pretty good otherwise, so I got T1 life and a good res roll, and then we crit ogged, and the only crit mod that these can land is Tailwind, so we got Tailwind. Generic rare rings with life and res, and this one has some int on it, and a little bit of chaos res, and then in presence, because this is surprisingly cheap this league, only 40 chaos, and a very good source of our despair until I get a despair on hit ring. And then Coralitos is the only flask of any note, so it gives you a brief overview of the gear. The passive tree does a lot of pathing for life over here, which I'm not super sold on. I have a version of the tree that goes like under Duelist and over to Tribal Fury as well that I may be swapping to in the next few days. I really like this Thread of Hope here, saves me a lot of points picking up these 4 nodes, and this is a node I wouldn't normally get, but for only 1 point, 10 dot multi 10% duration is great, even if we don't use the bow stuff. And then Acro Face Acro, as I said, alongside Mistwall and Wind Dancer as well. So the build is actually surprisingly tanky, a little bit low on life. As you can see, I'm only at like roughly 6k at level 90, but a lot of avoidance and a lot of defensive layers for mitigation that keep me alive despite that life pool. I'm going to be making update videos, maybe another couple, before we get to the proper endgame. This build is handling T10s and 11s at the moment safely in hardcore. Probably going to be another few levels in another couple days before I'm really at endgame and potentially going on to target one of the bosses on my list. But that said, give me your opinions on which bosses you think this build might be a good fit for, and I will certainly consider them. I may even set up a little like straw poll thing where people can vote, and then I'll do the one that has the most votes. But that would be in a few days when the gear is better. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, everybody. Enjoy them frogs. They are excellent frogs. HBT, thank you for the generosity. I appreciate it. Probably banana. Be sure to thank HBT on the way in. Pretty nice firm eye shake. And a look directly in the hand. Music is a vibe though. I really miss being able to play my Spotify stuff. I found so much cool music that I want to share with stream. I just can't. Unless I do exclamation mark playlist and go look at my playlist towards the bottom of it where the new music is. But who would do that? Who would do a thing like that? Who would type exclamation mark playlist into the Twitch chat and then go to my Spotify page and then look at the bottom of the playlist on that page in order to see what kind of new music I think is cool? I don't think there's anybody who would do that. Sounds like a real weirdo. I will do it. You're so brave. So brave. I don't have a sponsorship with Spotify or anything. I just like sharing music with people. Spotify wants to. The joke is I typed exclamation mark crab again instead. Crab is a pretty good joke. Oh, we can get the Wither belt enchant from Super Duper Lab. That's pretty good, right? That's neat. Blue Lab seems scary. It is scary. But it's okay. I have time to grow, to train. I'm gonna go back up to T7s.